Hi, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guest may not represent those of the host or the station. Please always consult with your primary care physician about any medical advice. Folks, I have a special guest with me today, as I always have special, phenomenal guests on, and I get excited about every guest and every show because I love what I do. And my guest today is Sandy Hart. That's Sandy, S-A-N-D-E. She is author and writer of the book, The Liminal Odyssey, which I hope I'm saying that right, Sandy. The Alchemical Power of the Spaces in Between. Sandy is an award-winning leader in the fields of women's empowerment and interfaith community building. She founded the Women's Interfaith International Grassroots Organization back when 9/11 happened, and it's called the Spiritual and Religious Alliance of Hope, which Sarah, which I think is cool, are the initials. Sandy is currently being inducted into the Women's Oral History Library of Claremont College. She founded and served as director, Charter for Compassion's Women and Girls Sector. And there's so much more about Sandy Hart that I want you all to Google Sandy, and Sandy's going to give her website. And I want you to look up Sandy Hart because I just met Sandy the other day, and I tell you, I'm excited. Sandy is phenomenal. I love her energy. I love her passion, and I want to welcome Sandy Hart to Chatting with Betsy. Welcome, Sandy.
Oh, well, thank you, Betsy. What a warm and generous introduction. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, you are welcome. I always ask the authors of what motivated them to write their book. So I like the name of your book. And, when I think of the Odyssey, me personally, I think of kind of like a trip in my mind. That's how I think of it. But I'd like to know what motivated you to write your book, and how did you come up with the title? Because I really think the title is cool.
It is a clunky title, isn't it? The Liminal Odyssey, the alchemical power of the spaces in between. The word liminal, though, is the clunky word. Liminal is the word that I had only heard a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, when I just, decided to start writing this one single story about an experience that I had in 1982 at a No Nukes rally and music festival in Southern California amongst 100,000 people. And my friends have been urging me to tell this story for probably 15 or so years. And I sat down to try to write it, but I'm not a writer. I don't know how to write a book. I don't have enough to fill up the page, let alone a chapter or even a book. I mean, it was a really interesting story. It was really fascinating enough for people to really urge me to write about it. But I just kept putting it down, and then my computer crashed, and I lost what I had anyway. And then a few years later, I tried again. And then when I heard this word liminal, I started thinking about that story. Liminal means threshold. It means the space between here and there, the space between a call to action and a choice, or dilemma and action, or perhaps the condition of a heartbreak happening in your life, between that heartbreak into some form of healing. That in-between space is what's known as liminal space. But it's not the space itself. It's what we do with that space that makes it liminal. So it's a little bit deeper of a word than just threshold or space. And so as I started thinking about that experience, and I started thinking about what was going on inside of me when that moment came where I had this call to action and there might be some fuzzy question marks out there about what the chapter's about, what the story is about, is, this, I heard a call to action, I responded, and I ended up starting a wave amongst 100,000 people that lasted all day long, that has had reverberating effects in my life ever since. And so when I started thinking about what was going on inside of me, what was that liminal space about? And I started writing about it. Not only did I immediately fill up a chapter and also saw some conditions that were relevant, so I wrote about those conditions, but 11 more stories poured out of me. And so that's what inspired me to write the book. The word liminal really was really at the core of what actually manifested into a book of a total of 12 stories that are all strung together.
That is very cool. So I understand it as, okay, I'll just use my own situation. I lost my husband. So what I did with that liminal space, odyssey, is I want to help other people. I was a caregiver. And instead of letting Alzheimer's defeat me, it changed me into a person that I never thought I would be, such as doing interviews. I'm using my pain to help other people, so they know that they're not alone, so they won't be alone. And I don't want people to be alone like I was, which is why I started a support group. Is that my understanding of it, Sandy?
Absolutely. It's what you did with that space. And anybody else might have had a completely different response to that. It's what you did that was informed by everything that has come before you and has changed the trajectory of your life, like now being a radio host, and very good one at that.
Thank
where
you.
You never thought you could be, right?
Right.
I think pain, right? Pain has really,
it's true.
Pain and pain and fear. What's going on? Pardon me, my goodness. Pain
That's
and
okay.
fear really, pain and fear have really gotten a bad rap in our world, right? Our society is so accustomed to, I've got pain, I've got to fix it right away. I've got pain, I've got to do whatever it takes to just heal this, or there must be something wrong with me, or I'm not dealing with this well enough or right, or I'm not giving myself the compassion I deserve. And even in that is a lack of doing something not enough. And so, or not enoughness, And so pain is there to inform us. It's there to strengthen us. It's there to show us what's possible in our healing. And to remember that in all cases, everything is impermanent. To remember that everything is fleeting. That even if that fleetingness means passing on to the other side, there's something else beyond and whatever was left behind. And so I don't know, Betsy, if you've ever seen the art of a sand mandala.
I have, in pictures.
A sand mandala is made almost 1 grain of sand at a time by an impeccably trained group of typically monks, and the Dalai Lama's monks do them at I attend the Parliament of the World's Religions every few years. The next one's coming up in Chicago this year, later in August. And every parliament, the monks come and they take the whole week and they create a sand mandala that you can actually watch them create throughout the course of the week. And it's a gorgeous, beautiful expression of intention and love and color and design that these people have trained their whole life to create. The sand itself is considered holy because it's been blessed. And then what they do with the sand mandala when it's all done, Betsy, is they pick this big board up, which is probably about 7 or 8 feet wide in diameter, squared. And they pick up this mandala, and then they walk it down to the river's edge, and all that sand goes into the river to demonstrate the impermanence of all things. And imagine our life, right?
That sounds cool, yeah.
Imagine our life. We're creating this masterpiece with our life, and, a grain of sand falls out of place, or big wind comes and takes it all away. It's impermanent anyway. So does that change the way we look at something and how we respond to something? I mean, that's a gift when something like that happens. So like the art form kintsugi, when a vase, the Japanese art form, I never thought I'd be talking about art today, but when the vase is broken.
Oh, that's okay. Yes, I was thinking the same thing, Sandy.
Yeah,
I was going to say the same thing.
Yes. Exactly. Kintsugi is the art form that makes that life of that vase so much not only stronger but more illustrious and beautiful, and has a really interesting story to tell, right?
Yes. What was the line? I know what you're talking about. I was thinking the same thing, that a cracked vase isn't seen as inferior. It's where the light comes in, through the cracks. And it makes it, even more beautiful and outstanding. And, the Bible talks about being tried by fire, and, trials and tribulations happen to make us better people. And even though we don't like it, right? Who likes trials and tribulations? I know I don't. But they, or people might say, okay, the universe is trying to tell me something. And sometimes the universe, if that's what people believe, has to knock us over the head and say, hey, I'm teaching you a lesson here. Are you going to listen, or do I have to keep repeating it? Life is, to me, life is just constant learning and changing. Nothing stays the same, but change is the one constant thing. That's for sure. What do you mean by, Sandy, in your title, the alchemical power of the spaces in between?
Well, alchemy is the science of heating something to a certain degree, like elements such as metals, and the art and the science of turning those metals into gold. Alchemists of thousands of years ago, they discovered that you could take the minerals from Earth that were considered mundane or not of great value and turn them into gold. It's an actual science. It's an actual process. So when we alchemize something, we take something which may seem mundane or insignificant or not considered valuable, and we alchemize it with shifting our perception, with understanding things in a little different way, which is the same way of saying shifting our perception, but turning that experience from a mundane experience to a miraculous one. And it's as simple as reframing what you're looking at. You don't need to turn on the stove or get a big cauldron. It happens in a flash in practice.
Okay, I'm getting to understand. So your book then is telling people or helping them to change their perspective of what went on in their life, if they have pain or emotional upset, to change how they look at it.
Right, and to see it as gift, even though that might be really hard to swallow. Because I'm.
Oh yes, I understand it, but I know. Mm-hmm.
Really hard to swallow for this gal who has never lost a partner, lost my parents. They were of a ripe age, and they went in the way they were hoping to go. And that was a blessing in itself. So I've never really lost anyone tragically, and I can't imagine what it was like. And I would never suggest I have experienced that or can understand it. I have experienced trauma in other ways that I can relate in a way that is like, wow, what is this about? And to remember things, and it's really to remember that, well, for example, you said the universe is trying to tell us something. No, I think the universe is telling us something. It's whether or not we're trying to listen to it. So what happens when we trust what the universe is telling us? That pain, that suffering, that experience is part of our story. And what's it going to look like when we pull back the layers and separate ourselves from that suffering? What is this really about? What have I really got to learn from it? What gift has come from this? My book is a story as well as some perspectives and philosophy on this concept. I tell my real stories in absolute vulnerability. I didn't set out to do that. I just could not be in my integrity if I didn't tell the true story. As a matter of fact, I remember thinking when I'm writing, like, my kids are going to read this. Well, they're going to read it. My sisters are going to read it. They might not be happy about this sentence, but I had to be in my full integrity, because whatever that was so much more illustrious and important to my life than the perceived pain. And back to that statement I said earlier about us having perceived, the way we perceive pain and suffering. This was a condition that is cultural. Not all cultures feel the same way about pain and suffering. In this country, in the United States, and perhaps North America, perhaps Canada as well, and what the Western world in general, we are highly influenced by pharmaceuticals, highly influenced by pharmaceutical companies who have us believing not to listen to our body, that pain isn't okay, that it's not, of course it's a sign that you might need medical help, and please do not, take another step if you're feeling pain and you feel like you need to go to the doctor, but, and to seek medical help, absolutely, or other kinds of help. Yet consider the fact, what is the influence to rush to pharmaceuticals, unless it's a psychiatric recommendation, of course. And so, but too much, look at the opioid crisis we have in this country. We're all about numbing our pain. Pain management is so pharmacies can sell more medicine. And so we have to be very careful about that. So a lot of my book is about looking closely at the spaces in between your story, the liminal spaces in your story. Listen with reverence to your body. Listen carefully to questioning assumptions. What is it? Why do we do the certain things we do? Why do we buy the things we do? It's all part and parcel that results in how we respond to certain things happening in our life, like crisis or trauma of any kind.
True.
It's all
related.
Yes. It's all related.
Sandy, that is so spot on, that I just love what you're saying, because there's so much wisdom and there's truth. I could speak from my own life. I went crazy after Matt died, buying nice, cozy pajamas. I wanted to cocoon. I just wanted to pull the covers over my head and cocoon, and then COVID happened. So we were forced to cocoon, right? And I was trying to soothe my my pain. And we do, in many ways, we hide from our pain because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for people, and I can speak for myself, to realize I have to sit through my pain and I have to work through my pain. Not that if you lost someone, not that you get over it. You never get over a loss. We carry the pain with us all the time. But to go through that pain and realize that you have it and not hide from it, not run away from it, but to face it. And that's what I had to do. Yeah. And so I definitely understand what you're saying. And, you know, we run to, you know, some people do emotional eating. Some people go shopping. Some people drink. They take drugs to numb the pain because it's uncomfortable to feel pain, emotional pain, you know, physical pain. And we have to face it. Otherwise, when we stifle it, and this is what I have said many times in my show and even in my support group, when we stifle our pain and our feelings, it's going to come out one way or another, and it can harm us physically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my son-in-law says, you got to feel all the feels. And it was right before I actually, probably a year before I actually got into writing this book, I had a heartbreaking punch to the stomach. I mean, just knocked the wind out of me, but not physically, but, you know, emotionally. I was really betrayed by somebody I trusted impeccably. And trust is a big issue with me in my life. And trust is something that I actually have an entire chapter on trust in the you know, and it's based on a book called The Trust Frequency. But this experience left me in bed, cocooning, right? I don't remember rushing, you know, I don't mind having a glass of red wine now and then, but I don't remember doing that. I just remember just soaking in this pain. And then something else happened not that long ago, not as devastating, thank goodness, but I remember going, okay, there's this pain. I can feel it. I feel it in my chest. It feels like a pressure. I'm going to put my hand on my chest and say, okay, this is supposed to be happening, but let's, you know, be good to yourself, be gentle on yourself, or myself. And I just found myself dealing with that physical pain, because we know it's physical, right? I mean, your experience is physical as well as mental. You feel it in your heart. Your heart hurts. It should. Your heart is, you know, sends more thought neurons to your brain than the other way around. We don't give our heart enough energy. Our back is going out on us. Well, what's going on in our life? Okay, because we carry a lot of stress and power in our back. You know, honor your back. Put your focus on your back. Acknowledge that what you're feeling in your body is all part of the whole pain experience. And what is there to learn in this? And you're going to lessen the amount of suffering. But again, we've been duped to believing that that's not okay, that we need to rush to drugs or the bottle or wherever. And who's that benefiting really other than the pharmaceutical companies? So it's understandable, but it's time that we recognize the power in between and how to alchemize it. This is not saying you're not going to feel the feels, but that's what makes the pearl a pearl, is the sand in its oyster shell, right? The grindiness that makes that imperfect circle now perfect and beautiful, and you want to wear it on necklace and earrings, right?
Yeah, is so. Yes, that's true. I have to tell you, Sandy, that I love to hear people's stories and how they took a tragedy and became triumphant, how they took something and now they're helping other people. They made it through the other side. And your book reminds me of that. What you're saying about your book reminds me of that. It's how there's a saying, when we change the way we look at things, the perspective changes. I'm not saying it exactly because I don't even remember who said it. It's something I've seen on Facebook, and it's true. I I heard someone say, I don't remember who it was, don't ask why is this happening to me. Ask why not, because we don't see the bigger picture. And sometimes we don't know why things happen. We don't know why horrible things happen. We won't know. We may know in the afterlife, but we may not know in this life. And I think you just have to trust the process sometimes, as difficult and as heartbreaking as it is.
I love that you said that we have to trust the process, and trust is a big deal. Trust really helps here. First of all, it helps. It's a safety net when you can trust. This is where faith is really helpful, because you trust the higher being, your ascended master or masters. I trust the loving, abundant universe that always has my back and conspiring for my highest good. I study the Course in Miracles, which says none of this matters, and I can trust that, even though it really, I have a foot in each pond, right? Of course it matters, but in the end, it's comforting. It's almost lifts the weight off, not to alleviate the pain that I should be feeling, but to remember, come back into membership with who I am, member, that everything happens for us and for me. And example, there's, I personally labor over making the wrong choice of something. My next book, how should I publish it? Should I do this? Should I do that? Well, you know what? If what is my perceived understanding of what the best outcome is doesn't happen, something better will happen, and I can trust that. And that trust really, again, it really, I think I say this in the book, it suspends in our psyche as a safety net to help us get through this, to know, okay, I'm not going to fall through the crack. I'm not going to fall through the floor right now. By the way,
yeah.
In terms of perspective, let's be grateful to the fact that that Earth is spinning on its axis and nothing has budged us in million trillions of years, and we're safe. I mean, you can really relate. You can really put things in perspective by that one. So trust is a big thing, really important. And
yes,
trust that whatever it is, like kintsugi. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like the art form kintsugi that we were talking about, and those gold seams. Trust that pain and suffering is making up your beautiful parts. I don't. Like forgiveness, right? They say you can forgive, but you don't forget. I don't want to forget because that experience informed who I am today and make me better moving forward. So I thank whatever happened. That person who, figuratively punched me in the stomach and left me in bed for a few days or few weeks actually, years ago, or a couple of years ago, that I thank that person now because of what's come. So this is called Kairos time. When you say this might not happen in our lifetime, Kairos time is God's time. And who are we to question that?
Yes, that is so true. I had epiphany. People might think I'm a little woo-woo, but I had epiphany the other day, Sandy. And I felt like Matt was telling me that, because I share his journey, and I felt like him saying, Betsy, it's also your journey. Look what came out of your journey with me. And the pain became like, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say joy in some ways. I never saw myself as a leader. I started a support group. Never did I think I would do public speaking. Or go into my car and do videos and put my face out on Facebook, on social media. That's something I would have done. I was the type, Sandy, not my monkey, not my circus, not my backyard. Why should I care? And when you have someone who has a terminal disease and people don't know about it, and there's myths, I just felt like I had to, and being mistreated by the medical community, I had to do something. I had to turn my anger into a positive energy. And I felt like Matt was saying, look at the people that you've helped and the people who have helped you. And I've met wonderful people in my different support groups on doing the show. I have met so many wonderful people. You're one of them. And just phenomenal. I mean, I'm blessed. And people say, how can you say that, Betsy? But I am. I am so blessed and grateful to have made it through caregiving, to do what I'm doing, to help people. And I heard someone say, you know, if you're born into a dysfunctional family and you may not have liked the family you came from, sometimes I think I was delivered to the wrong family. Take a look at how you are, and you're like the way you are because of your family circumstances. And that could be a plus for many people of how they are. And it's amazing. I'm glad that I came from my family because I'm an empath, and I want people to feel special. And I always, when I worked in a preschool, I made sure every child felt special. Compliment them. Because I didn't have that when I was younger, and I wanted every child that I came in contact with to feel like there's something special about them. And but our life experiences, I feel we have a choice, and it's a mindset. We either can become bitter or we become better. And it's just a choice. You know, we're going to let a disease defeat us, or we're going to kick its butt by living life to the fullest and really appreciating life. And unfortunately, that's sometimes what it takes to really shake us up and to really appreciate and enjoy life.
That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. Yeah, it sounds like you. I happen to believe, and by the way, woo-woo, if that's woo-woo, for me, woo-woo should be woo-hoo, because I think our, in this new quantum revolution that we're in right now, because scientists have said, we're in this quantum revolution, which means our spirituality, our minds are catching up to our spirituality. So there's a lot more woo out in the world than there was before, and I'm like on the fringe of the of the woo-woo beyond measure. I get it. So I this is the way I talk. I can't help it. But
you talk however you want. Do you hear how I talk?
I love it. Yeah, it's just fun and it's descriptive. And so what I personally happen to believe that we're all sent here. However we are here, whether we're sent here, whether you believe that or not, we're all here with a specific set of skills that nobody else, no one else has the same combination of the way we think, the skill set we have, the way we form words and thoughts, the way we walk in the world. Nobody has that same. We all have a different thumbprint, literally and figuratively. And so what is my thumbprint I need to show up in the world with? And it's not what you're doing, and it's not in comparison to what you're doing. It's what my soul purpose is here. I call it, or planetary assignment, or soul's sacred task. What is that? What can only you do? I used to do a workshop for children. I wrote a children's book called Make a Difference 101. It's not on print anywhere. I've got a garage full of books. Because I wrote it for my kids on how to do community service. And as I start, and then, of course, more and more kids wanted it. It was part of our bar and bat mitzvah projects for my kids. I thought, okay, you're not just going to check a box and say you did something good for a week and now you can be bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. Here's really how you become a responsible community leader. And here's how to put on an event. And step-by-step guide. It's 13 steps on how to do a special project that serves somebody else or the community. And the very first thing I teach kids or wrote in this book was, what are you going to do is, where do your passions meet the needs in the world? Aristotle said your calling is where your passions meet the needs in the world. Do that. That's what your project should be. If you love to play basketball and you love to care for children's cancer, let's put on a basketball tournament and raise money for pediatric cancer research, which has happened to have been my son's project. And he had the Laker girls there. He put on a full-day project. I mean, yeah, we went big. But the point here is that it was exciting and important to him because he was doing what he loved to do, to serve somebody else. That's called enlightened self-interest. And when you're doing enlightened self-interest, that's serving others that serve yourself, or serving yourself where it serves others. If we all did that all day long, our world would be a totally different place. And we'd all be showing up in our divine assignment. That's all. Simple.
That's absolutely. Yeah, I tell people in, support group or when I talk in other shows, I feel to me like, okay, you lose your spouse or 10 years of caregiving. So who are you now? What's your purpose? And I say, wherever your passion is, you'll find your purpose. And sometimes we don't know. Sometimes it takes the experience of what we went through to find out. Like, never in a million years, Sandy, would I ever think I would be a radio talk show host. I would be like, if someone told me this 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would say, you're crazy. You're crazy. There's no way I would be doing that. So sometimes it takes events in our life to put us where we were meant to be. And I believe
it always does. I'm interrupting intentionally. It always does.
So I'm like, I talk to Matt every day, and I go, Matt, your journey pushed me where I'm supposed to be, which never would have thought that I would, that I would be doing what I'm doing. I was a very shy person. I still am shy, actually, in parties if I'm in a group. You wouldn't even know I'm there. People find that hard to believe, but it's true. I'm very quiet in a group. But I just think that the more people I meet doing the show, I become so enlightened and learn so much from every guest. And I just think that, if people, I think, you just say, like, what's in store for me today? When we get to be grateful. I'm alive. I'm grateful. How do I serve the world today? How can I help somebody today? And I think that would help people to feel better, actually, even about themselves, that they're helping someone else. I know it helps me to feel better. It always did. My sister, this is when I was a candy striper, and this is many years ago. My sister said, I heard her say to someone, because she thought I was sleeping, she goes, I'm jealous of Betsy. She gets high naturally from helping people. And I always did. I always felt like, I don't know, maybe my endorphins kick in or something. I just really always had that to help people. And I, became a nurse. I knew at 4 years old I wanted to be a nurse. And, but life throws things at us. And sometimes we start out in one path and things happen. We can't do that. So our life takes a turn to another path. And then maybe another one to where we should be.
Right. Yeah, when my kids were in a funk or having a bad day or whatever, like they were feeling all the feels, and, I would say, okay, let's clean out our pantry or go to the market, and we're going to take some food over to the food pantry today. And, just that simple act changes our state. The Dalai Lama said, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion.
Oh, I like that.
Right? It's that simple. Betsy, in my final chapter of the book, right, I talk about my experience at Auschwitz. I was working on a project there that's with the One Humanity Institute, and we went through the death camps, and I had a really miraculous experience there that I write about. And the next day, I'm going to share this little bit with you. The next day, I had an experience where I was standing over a river on a little walk bridge in this picturesque little town in Auschwitz, which is Polish for what's otherwise known as Auschwitz. Hitler changed the name from Auschwitz into Auschwitz. So Auschwitz is the name of the town, and I'm sitting on this little picturesque bridge with this little river going under me, and then I realized where I was. I was downriver from where the Nazis used to dispose of the evidence from the prisoners who were incinerated, and immediately I noticed all the green, lush. I'm getting full body right now. All the green, lush, the life that this river was doing to its banks. The trees, the overgrown full bushes that are teeming with life, home for birds, putting off oxygen into the air, these trees, and this beautiful, just this lush, environment, and this beautiful river with two little ducks coming towards me. And I then heard this. Oh, it always gets me.
It's okay.
Mourning our memory does not serve us. We choose love. Of course, we choose love. I'm not kidding. Every cell in my body is dancing right now. Not dancing in joy, but moving. I can feel every. Well, maybe it is joy. Maybe that's the universe telling me that they're all over there going, yay, she got it. We choose love. And I got to thinking about that. I felt very guilty feeling that. I felt very guilty not being heavier about what I was feeling. I felt very guilty for a long time and actually didn't want to share that for a while because I'm thinking, wow, that's heavy. These people who went through what they went through, and I have the nerve to say that this is what I heard. And then I started thinking about my own ancestors who had a very difficult life, fled, Nazi Europe, and those that didn't, and thinking, if I were them, what would I want? What do you think those who lived through the suffering, would they want their granddaughter, their Sandala, which is my grandmother used to call me, to be in suffering too? Or to alchemize their experience to make the world better so that doesn't happen again?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's profound.
Felt really compelled to share that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sandy, because that is so powerful that it just sent chills down my spine. That is beautiful. And I would love for you to come back, Sandy, and I would love you to come back and talk about your organization, Sarah.
Oh.
I think people need to know about your organization, and I'd love for you to come back at another time if you'd like, to talk about that and talk about about what you experienced and going to Auschwitz. And matter of fact, I'm going to do a little plug here. Pastoral Talk Radio, Lillian Cauldwell, CEO, another host, Lisa Skinner, and I will be having a show called Lest We Forget starting January 17th, and then is going to be the first month about the Holocaust, that we not forget it. we should not forget what happened. And I think that this is going to be a great show and very informative. And I would love for, I really do want you to come back. If you want to come back, Sandy.
Oh, my gosh, of course. Absolutely. Anytime you call me. Later today. I'll be there.
Where can people buy your book, Sandy Hart?
The book and the audio book can be found on Amazon or at liminalodyssey.com. I'll spell that, Liminal, odyssey.com. Or you can find your way there by Sandy Hart, SandyHart.com. There's 2 websites there for you. And from Sandy Hart, you can also find your way to SARA, the women's organization, as well. And so the audiobook is really very exciting, too, because a very, very profoundly recognized and beloved Native American flute maker, Jerry Littlejohn, actually composed the music that she played while the book is being, you can hear her music throughout the book, the audio book. And an album is coming out, too. So there's a lot of good things coming up. And if you get the book from liminalodyssey.com directly, use the promo code Betsy for a little discount, and that includes shipping.
Oh, okay. They order on Liminal. I can't even pronounce that word sometimes.
I know. Liminalodyssey.com.
Liminalodyssey.com. Okay, well. Thank you very much. That is very nice, and that will be in the blog. Sandy Hart, it was such a pleasure having you on. I really feel such a connection to you. There's some people I just connect with, and you are one of them. Who knows? Down the line, we might be mishpucha. Who knows? Right?
We probably are. We'll talk a little bit longer and find out we are. And I just want to say I just bow deeply to you, Betsy. Thank you for being the alchemist of your life. And I'm just so grateful for what you do for others and myself. I'm so inspired. I feel more enlightened because of you today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's really sweet of you to say. I'm going to get verklempt here. I always get I don't know, it's the way I am. I get emotional, filled with joy when people say nice things about me. Thank you very much.
Well,
I appreciate that. Thank you. Folks, you have been listening to Sandy Hart. That's S-A-N-D-E. That's how she spells Sandy. H-A-R-T, author and writer of the Liminal Odyssey, the Alchemical Power of the Spaces in Between. I would highly recommend getting this book. I think it's on the line, to me, of self-improvement, and who doesn't need that? I highly recommend it if you go, and all the information will be in the blog, and use the promo code Betsy on the website liminalodyssey.com. Thank you, Sandy, for what you do and for coming on, and I definitely will be in touch with you. Folks, thanks for listening. Please tell your friends about Chatting with Betsy. I want people to have the best life they could have. I want people to know they are not alone. There are resources out there. There's help out there, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help people. That's my mission, my vision, and when you share this show, you are helping people. You're helping me help people and carrying on Matt's legacy, and I so appreciate it. And I am on, it's free to subscribe to. I'm on iHeart, Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon, just to name a few. And I appreciate everyone listening. And I want to thank Jeanne White, who is a producer, station manager, and she writes the blog. So please read it for the information. And I want to thank Lillian Cauldwell, who's CEO of Passion World Talk Radio, that makes this all possible. And as I always say at the end of my show, folks, in a world where you can be anything, to please be kind and shine your light bright, because if we all did that, it would be a much kinder and brighter world, and that's what I believe. And as you all know by now, I am a product of the 60s and 70s, and yes, I still believe that. I do believe in showing kindness and shining your light bright, and just, be who you are and be grateful of who you are. And if you don't like something about yourself, change it. And if you can't change it, if it's impossible, like, the way you look as far as facial features, accept it. Embrace it. I've learned in my 60s to embrace who I am, big nose and all, curly hair. I've learned to embrace my flaws, and that's just who I am, folks. And I also want to invite you to follow me on my Facebook page, Betsy, Betsye, Wurzel, Wurzel. You get a personal look at my life, what I'm about. You can see pictures of my son, of my late husband. And if you are looking for a support group, if you're a caregiver or know of one, even if you're not a caregiver, chances are you will be, my Facebook group is #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement on Facebook, and we welcome everyone from all walks of life. And I just wanted to say that. So thank you, everyone, again for listening. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, and I'll chat with you again soon. Bye-bye now.